So what do you think of these people in Silicon Valley that want to live forever?
Well, I appreciate it. I understand where it's coming from.
Right. Okay.
But I look, who knows where science will ultimately take us, but eternity is not in the cards, I don't think, just based on our understanding of the physical laws, but a very long time, longer than the current human lifespan, quite possibly. But nobody will somehow transcend the finite nature of life. That, whether it's longer than we experience, perhaps, but it will be finite. And look, there have been so many works of fiction that have explored the possibility of immortality. The vast majority of them, it does not turn out so well for those individuals in those stories.
They're unhappy, they do
Bored.
bad things, they're bored.
Bored,
right?
Nothing matters any longer, because what does it mean to achieve if you have, infinite amount of time? Either you will be unable to get it for infinity, and that will be deeply distressing, or you will be able to get it and it doesn't really feel like you've accomplished something because given enough time you figured you would. There's all sorts of things that come into play that the traditional ways that we feel important in the world evaporate if we are immortal.
Right. Obviously, Ray Kurzweil talks about the singularity of us kind of merging with machines, and it's happening anywhere between 10 and 30 years from what people are saying, and then uploading our consciousness into the cloud. What do you make of all this stuff?
Well, it's exciting to think about, and there may be some truth to it. Technology has done things today which, if we spoke about them 50 years ago, we'd be like, come on. There's going to be a little box that I can talk into and talk to someone on the other side of the world, or ask it a question and it will give me the answer. That was like Star Trek silliness, right? And now it's real. So you never want to say that won't happen. It could happen. But the idea of immortality, that's one that I think strains anything that I understand about how the world works.
I had two different guests in here. One of them was named Stephen Jenkins, who has been present at the death of about 12,000 people in palliative care. And I had another guy named Ben Goertzel, who works on Singularity stuff in Hong Kong. And it was fascinating because Ben said, what are you talking about, Brian? I could upload my consciousness and I have 100 different versions of me and it's going to be amazing. And I was like, yeah, but you have no body and you have no reference to your mortality. And he's like, what are you talking about? You're thinking of it wrong. You're thinking like a caveman. And then Jenkins is saying, you guys are all crazy. Death is something that's coming that you need to find a way. I was like, oh, you'd have to have a relationship with it. He's like, no, Brian, you don't even understand death. And it's just like, death is not only part of the human experience, it is in some ways the human experience. And so, I don't know,
Well, it certainly has been. It absolutely is a vital part of the human experience. Will that change in the future by virtue of these developments? And I definitely have a deep degree of sympathy with the perspective that if we analyze these developments with the mindset that we have developed through the lives that we have led, we may be off base. It may require a radically different mindset to deal with a radical disjuncture in the nature of our experience in the world. If we're inside some computer floating around in bits and bytes, that ultimately might be something that we find deeply gratifying and enjoyable, even in the absence of a body, even in the absence of things that we consider vital to our existence. There's some people who would hear that and say, oh my God, that's hell. You finally are discussing hell on earth.
Being in a video game.
Being in a video game, oh my God, I can't, But that's from this mindset, the one that has been out in the world that we're familiar with. So you have to be very careful about judging things using the wrong mindset.
And if you take that one step further, you get the people that are saying that we might be in a simulation.
Yeah,
and Elon
maybe
Musk,
happening right now.
Right. How do you feel about that? Yeah. How do you get your head around that?
Well, look, there's an interesting argument. It actually comes from Nick Bostrom at Oxford that suggests we're in a simulation. And it simply goes like this. In the far future, if computers can simulate worlds and have conscious beings within the simulation, then there are going to be a lot of people interested to create those simulations. And it might be that everybody has their own supercomputer and they get home at night and they flip it on and they simulate a world. So there may be many, many simulated worlds with many, many simulated individuals. Presumably there's only one real world. So if I ask you, are you in a simulation or are you in the real world, simply by looking at the probabilities, one real world, gazillion simulated worlds, seems more likely that you are right now in a simulated world. Now, am I convinced by that argument? I'm not. I get it. It makes it an interesting idea. I find it interesting, frankly, because it gives you a new way of thinking about God. If you are in a simulation, there was, say, a kid in a futuristic garage who started that simulation, maybe observing that simulation. That kid is your creator, but it's not a supernatural creator. It's a natural creator. That being is in the outer world, governed by physical laws of the outer world. And therefore, it's a kind of existence argument where you can have a creator, but you don't need to violate the laws of science.